Okay. Well, hello. Welcome. We are doing an industry panel right now, and it's going to be called Best Practices, Industries Trends in the Online Marketplace. So my name is Sherri, Bastura, and I am an account manager at HomeAdvisor in the Strategic Partnerships division. I've been with HomeAdvisor for almost 3 years. Absolutely love it. And I'm going to be one of the moderators. Joining me in these duties is Meyer, who is one of our national account executives. So we want to extend a very warm welcome to our industry experts. So we have Kevin Geiger, who is the Vice President of Business Development at EverCommerce. So Kevin, I just want you to just give us like the elevator line, just what your company is, so that when we dive into the questions, people have a little bit of an idea of what you do.
Sure. Hi, Sherri. Hi, Mike.
Hey.
EverCommerce is a portfolio company. We acquire and actually run the day-to-day operations of now 49 SaaS companies, software as a solution companies. And about 25 of those are in the home and field services space, and CRMs, lead generation, as well as digital marketing services, customer sentiment and feedback, and so forth. So, and my position there as the VP of Business Development is I oversee putting together partnerships at the EverCommerce level that we can then disseminate over to our subsidiaries.
Got it. Cool.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, God, we're so thrilled that you're with us. Next up is Brian Gottileb. He is the CEO and founder of Tundraland. And full disclosure, Brian and I have spent a couple webinars together talking about all sorts of great things in this space. So Brian, the same, would you just introduce yourself briefly and tell us just a little bit about your company?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks so much, Sherri. Appreciate it. So Tundraland is a community-conscious home improvement company. And what that means, our mission statement is to do well and do good. And we think we can make a positive impact in the lives of our customers, of our communities, and of course, our employees. We cover the state of Wisconsin and we cover Arizona with windows and baths, about 500 employees all in. And, happy to be here. Really appreciate the time.
So excited to have you with us. And last, but certainly not least, we have Patrick Darby, who's an account executive at Xactware. So Patrick, in the same line, can you just introduce yourself briefly and tell us just a little bit about your company?
Sure, I'm going to try to keep it concise. The parent company I work for is called Verisk. We do work in all kinds of different spaces. I'm going to focus on Xactware, which is where I operate today. I'm an account executive in the non-insurance spaces. The two primary spaces for us are in the P&C business, in claims repair and repair costs that's related to insurance. And then my space, non-insurance related applications for big box retail, banking, real estate, contractor units, consulting firms nationally. We're based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and operate within the US, but also working currently on Canada and Europe. So I'd say, Sherri, our focus is definitely software and scoping application tools, but probably the hefty part of it is trade research in cost repair.
Cool. So thank you so much. So our format for today's discussion is Mike will ask a question, and then you can answer it. And then if anybody else has something to add, please feel free to jump in. And then I'll ask a question. And we're going to have it kind of two different sections. The first section is going to be software tools for lead generation. So without further ado, Mike is going to jump in and ask the first question.
Yeah, so Brian, we were hoping you could tell us a little bit about today's market and what pros can do to receive more leads in the marketplace.
Yeah, and that's something, I appreciate the question, Mike. That's something everybody wants. But first of all, if you are a pro watching this and you've survived 2020, congratulations, you've gotten a PhD in crisis management, and that's a big deal. So good for you for being here. But I also think if you're a pro watching this, you've probably had a lift in 2020 because of COVID. And I think it's important to understand that, when a company, and you probably realize this, when a company has a lift in leads and a lift in sales and a bigger backlog, a lot of times fast, rapid growth, it exposes the imperfections inside of an organization. And I think when you think about trying to manage leads in 2021, it's great to have a lot more leads, but chaos only produces revenue. Discipline produces profits. And you want to figure out ways that you can keep those leads organized, know where you're at, know where you're spending your money, and drive your business professionally. So when we talk about more leads, I think if you're not using an industry specific software, whether it's a Market Sharp or an Improvement 360, I think, as when you talk about a fundamental, the proper industry specific software, a great website that looks really good, that's easy to operate, that the customers love, and that's trackable. And look, I think it's also important to have a good team of people behind your lead gen and your website development, so that you're not just wasting money, that you're really being effective with it. And if you get those two things right as a foundation, you can then start to stack all kinds of other things on top of it. Purchase leads, television marketing, all those other things. Website, software as a platform.
Got it. Great answer.
Awesome.
Anybody have anything to add to that before I ask a question?
Well, you're talking to one of the industry leaders right there that knows that a process and a system followed that are repeatable and is probably the most effective way to grow your company. And he's done it from start to finish. So, and you just said he had 500 employees. I don't know about you, but I don't want 500 employees. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure. Patrick, do you have anything or?
I thought that the lead gen part that Brian makes mention of is something that I had a little bit of context on, and something we've been thinking about in the work with some of the consulting firms in the arena. Homeowners are way more informed these days. And typically, I don't have any data to support it, but they probably researched a lot before they get to a contractor.
Oh, yeah.
Way more informed than they used to be. That can create problems, but it also could create a more informed consumer where if you approach it right, it could be way more productive, like Brian's mentioning. There's a lot of interesting things that lead gen people are doing these days that I'll maybe touch on a bit later that we've been involved in. So
awesome. All right, so I'm going to ask Kevin. You're up for the next question. So can you tell us about the importance of using technology to manage your business and kind of what types of technology you use?
Sure. Brian could probably answer this question too, but thank you for coming my way. I think that in order to effectively grow and run your business, like I mentioned earlier, processes and systems can only be implemented today with the proper technology, and a technology that fits your company and fills a gap that you need. So like Brian had mentioned earlier, and I don't mean to keep referring to you, but there are very verticalized solutions like a CRM, like he had mentioned, a Market Sharp and an Improvement 360 for the remodeling industry. Or there are very horizontal solutions. If you think about payment processing and financing solutions that you could put in front of your consumer, as well as even like review generation, ask software that you can utilize in your business is very horizontal in its nature. It can go across many different verticals, not just the remodeling. A roofer could use it, a HVAC guy could use it, a doctor's office can use like some of this stuff. So if you think about it that way. So if you start at the beginning of the customer journey, you need to look at what technologies you're utilizing across a large spectrum. How are you marketing your company and what technologies are you using to do that? How are you getting your leads? Are you using a HomeAdvisor, an aggregator, like someone that can give you a good volume of high quality leads? Are you reaching the right customers at the right time? Are these marketing efforts directly integrating with the solutions you're already using? If you want to become more effective, these solutions have to talk to each other. And there's a lot of different things. So the integrations of these solutions is a very important piece of that. Obviously, creating efficiencies, giving you visibility into the health of your business is paramount in today's world. It allows you and your team to sort of determine, are you working on the right things or are you just working on things? So, like I'm sure Brian uses dashboards and reports all the time. He could be in Phoenix while his business in Wisconsin, and he needs to see something that's going on in one of his locations somewhere else. And he has it all right there at one time, giving him the visibility to see what kind of metrics they're actually working with. I think at the end of the day, what I'm like, this long-winded answer I've given everybody here is that a process is really only as good as the amount it's being used. And so what does technology play in that? It makes it easier and automates that process and the functionality of the process you're creating.
Great answer.
Yeah, to that point, Kevin, look, I think when we think about growing a business, the importance of being able to predict and replicate is is super important
Yes.
inside the organization. And what software does is it gives you the opportunity to measure it. I'll share with you a story. I was trying to hire a videographer for something, and it was a large firm that I reached out to, and it was like a Wednesday that I reached out to them, and it was I went on their website. It was really difficult to figure out how I even reach out to them. I finally found some kind of a web form that I filled out, sent it on Wednesday. It was like Monday before I heard back from them. And I already hired somebody else in the meantime. Now, I would assume if the owner of that videographer firm had some sort of a software that he could see his people aren't being contacted, he would have blown his cork, because he's an entrepreneur that started a business. Very much like you, who's watching this conversation right now. You started this business. The lead is sacred inside of your organization, and if you are the one that has to touch every single lead, the business is only going to grow to your bandwidth. So now you say, okay, I have to have other people that are touching our customer. And if you're doing that, software provides systems, processes, measurement tools, and organization, so you can build your business with consistency. The days of a Rolodex, they just simply don't work anymore.
No, your Rolodex is your phone, right? When's the last time you know someone's phone number? Brian's forgot my phone number already.
Exactly. Exactly. That was great. So Brian, you touched on something that you and I have talked about before, and it's not really answering this question, but I just want you to just share what you say when you say a lead is sacred, because I love that.
In 560 BC, one of
just before he was born.
Just before we were born.
560 BC, there was a book that was written by Sun Tzu, and the name of the book was called The Art of War.
Right.
And today, our greatest generals study The Art of War. It's a good strategy book if you want to pick up. There's actually an interpretation, The Art of Sales and The Art of War. It's a cool interpretation. But anyway, one of the things that Sun Tzu said is, he said, that which we leave behind makes our enemy stronger. And what he was talking about is, on a battlefield, if you leave like a little arrow or some food and you leave the battlefield and the enemy came by, they actually get stronger off of your leave behind. The same is true with lead generation. The lead that you don't contact, the lead that you leave behind, the lead that you don't nurture, and the lead that you don't convert only makes your competitor stronger. So, if you think about every lead that wasn't properly handled is an opportunity for to have a bigger competitor in your market. The lead in our industry is sacred. If you're in the specialty contractor business, it's probably one of your most expensive parts of your business. Whether you're running 12, 15, 18% marketing percentage, that's something that needs to be managed. And the better you manage it, the more you're going to grow.
Perfect.
There's a videographer out there that is doing business with Brian Gottileb right now that actually probably utilized that theory right there. That last company just left it out there, and and that other company picked up Brian's business pretty quickly, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Sherri, just a segue to that, Brian and Kevin, in the lead gen space, unfortunately, that's not where we've operated a whole lot, other than customer consulting and forming a framework for the job that they're actively looking to do and setting proper expectations. And then guys like Brian and Kevin pick it up and go from there and build a bond, some relationship of trust. As a segue, where we try to operate is when you get the bids, making it where you can be faster and produce more of them. Now, try to not leave the bid behind, like Brian mentioned. If I could get you time where you could do more and faster, then that's kind of where our sweet spot's in the way of helping a contractor after you achieve, lead creation, lead gen.
Yep.
And it's, all of these things, if you think about all the different touch points with the customer, these are also opportunities where the contractor can drop the ball, especially when you get busy and you have all kinds of stuff going on. Anytime you can make that a better experience for the customer, you're going to win more than you're going to lose.
Yep. Cool. All right, Mike, do you have the next question?
I do. Actually, Patrick, I feel like you started to touch on this a little bit, but can you tell us a bit about the tool that your company offers and how it can help contractors be more successful?
Yeah, it's good, Mike. I didn't mean for it to be a segue, but I guess
but it worked perfect.
It was lovely.
We've operated in trade research. I'm going to call it trade research because if you add 4 trades together, then possibly it becomes a building system. and making sure that's researched properly with the margins that guys like Kevin and Brian need to make on the job. So the software interfaces and how you build the bid have to be fast. We realize guys or contractors in the world meet with customers all day, and then they sit down at night perhaps to do it. So if I can cut the time that it takes them to build that bid and form a baseline where their skill set can be redundant in nature, not redundant in a bad way, but if you're doing kitchens, right, if you're doing another kitchen in the same geo, there's things that you can learn from that. So speed without you losing any of the trade research that you can rely on. We make our applications mobile capable and desktop. Obviously, in that scenario, you're collecting notes. If there's time or the customer permits, perhaps you could use the mobile technology to sort of sketch an outline of the bid, make it faster that way. Confidence, I think, if our trade research is good and then a contractor learns that they can depend on it and tinker with what you show the homeowner or what you don't in terms of unit cost and that kind of stuff, we focus our time on that. I mentioned earlier to Sherri that the customer is just way more informed and prepared. They probably have some percentage of the decision done before they get to you.
Sure.
So we've operated in that consulting space a little bit before to sort of form a framework of the estimate. And then when the contractor gets it, they don't have to start from ground zero, right? They're adding a couple of building systems and tuning up measurements, quality grades, that kind of stuff to save them time. And in Brian's line of thinking, if you can get your hands on more and you want to, then the software should make it feasible to do that with efficiency factors. If you take that extra time and spend it with your family, then even better.
Sure.
The last thing is just some kind of understanding of there's 3 other guys bidding the job too, right? Knowing if you lost, why, right? You may not know the answer to every question, but maybe I got my quality grade wrong and I overbid something. Our technology aims to help the contractor understand that. And so we're trying to make that space where you get the bid, get to them first and be able to do more. And so that's kind of how we think about it.
That's great.
I think what's really cool about that, Patrick, is the one thing all contractors have in common is whenever you give a customer a price, it's usually the price is usually more than the customer expects it to be, right? And the other thing is that the longer the customer has to wait for a price, the less their enthusiasm is. And, so you really want to get to a price as quickly as possible and as professionally as possible, because the more you do that, the more you're actually driving up that customer's willingness to pay. And they're willing to pay a premium. Look, if we're getting ready to do a remodel in our kitchen, and if I have to wait 3 weeks for somebody to bid this thing out, I'm not going to have a whole lot of confidence in the company that's doing it. If it took me 3 weeks to bid it, how long is it going to take you to build it? So
right.
And you're in, like, if you're in the industry, you understand that there's timeframes. The timeframes exist, right? But if you're not, if you're Mr. or Mrs. Smith that happens to be just outside and redoing their kitchen, what that time frame does is, because this can be an anxiety-filled process for people. What that time frame does, that if you can shorten that time frame to get a price to them, to get a drawing to them, to get a design to them, whatever that looks like, you're lowering their anxiety levels, and that creates trust. That creates what does trust create? Trust creates a fact of the matter of that you can get the dollars that you're looking for your job. That's for sure.
Great stuff.
Stop, Kevin. You mean that customers think that you're the only job they're doing that day?
Correct. 100%. You're the only one.
Yeah. One other place that I want to mention that maybe we could save time is we've been pursuing the ability to take a scope and make your material order digitally. We realize that most contract networks have they have people they buy their materials from, right?
Sure.
They like to deal with human interaction in some cases. And so, retailers are making it where if it's a kitchen job, like Brian mentioned, and it's tile or countertops or whatever, the scope converting the quantity that you need into a SKU, right? Which leads you to, Mr. Homeowner, here are the different tile options in our budget range. And then when you have agreement, being able to take that material list of components, instead of taking the piece of paper into the store, submit it digitally to whoever you buy from. And where it converts, you need 5 boxes of tile for this job. And so that's something we're excited about. And again, back on the time saving measure.
Right. That's awesome.
Really good stuff. All right, Kevin, coming at you again. How does EverCommerce help companies nurture their leads? Similar to what we were talking about, what Brian touched on about every lead is sacred.
Yeah.
How does EverCommerce
Right.
nurture?
So there's going to be a little bit of overlap through I think on this answer for sure. So EverCommerce, we have two solutions that are very industry specific to the remodeling space, which are Market Sharp and Improve It 360. And someone on this call is a customer of ours. I know that's for sure. And a very good customer. And just so everybody understands, I'm making the assumption everybody knows what a CRM means or what it is. It's a customer relationship management tool. It is a solution that will help you take that lead that you've paid so dearly for, no matter what platform you're getting it from. It could be organic, it could be whatever, from your website, from HomeAdvisor, whatever that looks like, but you've put some effort and time into that lead, and now it's time to make that pay off. And that's really what our CRMs do, is they take that information, they allow you to put it into a system and basically a process that you can follow in to nurture that lead, as well as to follow up on that lead. You know what? For instance, HomeAdvisor leads in both platforms get dropped directly into the CRM, and then directly into the pipeline of maybe a sales team or a specific salesperson, or maybe it's a customer success person. Who knows where that exactly is going to land, but it can land in different spots. And as we've talked about before, in my humble opinion, all leads can be good leads, and they just have to be effectively nurtured over time. Phone call, an email, a text, second email, maybe another phone call, all automated over a specified period of time to give a consistent cadence to that reach out. And then there's a consistency across your business on how you run with these leads that you're getting. You know, some of these leads, like Brian mentioned earlier, and I'll touch on probably later too, is they go unsold. And most effective CRMs, not just ours, not just Market Sharp and 360, will provide you with systems that can create like rehash campaigns or so forth, schedule automated emails to go out to those customers or to those prospects, as we like to call them. One of the other things we talked about that Patrick touched on is time. So, you know, are you getting to these leads in a response time that Brian had mentioned with his videographer as well, and then tracking all these activities and giving the business owner like Brian, or a leader in Brian's organization, the visibility he or she needs to run their business segment effectively and measure success. You know, I think using a CRM I think that's a baseline of your business, no matter what the size. You know, Improve It 360, maybe it fits a little bit of a bigger contractor in the market chart, maybe a little smaller of a contractor, and you know, there's a breadth there, right? But I think that you could start somewhere, and you know, an Excel spreadsheet's going to break, and it's not visible, it's not trackable, and all these different things. So I think that that's the most important thing to understand, is that the technology is going to give you the tools to succeed through the processes and systems that you need to run your business.
Yeah, and I love go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, it's a better customer experience, because I'll share with you quick.
100%.
When I first started the business, you know, from nothing, and it was just me on a folding table. And when I first added my first person to actually answer the phones, we always knew the importance of calling a lead quickly, you know, and you know, first 30 seconds, you know, that's what we want to do. So let's say we were getting a lead from any lead source. We actually had it hooked up to an email account that was hooked up to a computer, that was hooked up to a speaker. And every time a lead came in, we had an alarm go off, and whoop, 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 and we pick it up and call it. And that was like, you know, we've grown past that since then. But now the journey is that, and we use we use Improve It 360. We find it's a great program. We use it through the whole organization. It's a Salesforce platform. But now here's the customer journey. Whether it's off of our associates website that we have, or or it comes in from HomeAdvisor, it drops right into our system. We're able to pick up the phone and call it right away. We can have a nice conversation with Kevin if he's the customer. We can find out, oh my gosh, Kevin has a little dog named Fido.
He's got a very low budget, by the way.
That's right. He's got a low budget, but he's got a dog named Fido. And I hear Fido's rich. Yes. But he's got a dog named Fido. And now that's in my notes of my CRM. And the salesperson knows that. Now, when the salesperson shows up at the door, they can have a treat for Fido at the front door waiting for him. And even the installer, because we use it for our installers too, they have total visibility to the whole customer experience. They can say, hey, by the way, hi, my name is George from Tundraland. I'm your installer today. Is Fido locked up? Because I understand Fido lives here too. It just creates a point of differentiation in your organization that's very, very difficult to compete with if you execute on it properly.
And I think that you hit on the point, like what you just explained there is like, if you take CRM and basically cut up the name in like the acronym into what it is, customer relationship. You just created a relationship, and how are you managing that relationship?
Right.
That is spot on. So what I really liked what you also brought up, Kevin, is that you have to have a strategy, whether it's email, phone, and text.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure most people know now text is the preferred method that people communicate. So if you haven't incorporated that text into your follow-up cadence, I strongly suggest, because I think that's been super effective.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Brian, in what ways do you see opportunities for contractors to add additional revenue to their business over the next year?
Yeah, well, obviously, well, I think that's a really big question. Okay, so I'll try to take it how I see it. And I think the opportunity in 2021 is this. Because I believe that a lot of contractors have grown their business in 2020 just by default, because people are home. It's the housing boom and everything else is going along with that. What comes with that is I think a lot of contractors have really big backlogs right now. And I could share with you that my wife and I were going through this remodel. So we ordered this couch. I wanted a recliner, and it was like 4 months to get a recliner anywhere. We ordered a couch. It was 6 months to get a couch. The lead times are ridiculous. If an organization can really think about what you need to be excellent at, and I believe it's about training, development, recruitment, all those kind of things, and build your back end and be excellent at not be the company that doesn't have a big backlog. Be that company, and that alone is going to help. One thing to help increase revenue. But the other thing is that how do you for every appointment that you're on, how are you able to charge just even a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
And I think all that comes down to multiple things. It's having a good social profile online, whether it's through HomeAdvisor and having your reviews, making sure that you have a social proof out there that you're a great company. I do think what's interesting is still, and I think this started when COVID first hit, is people don't want 3 or 4 contractors coming in their home to give an estimate. They want one company that they trust. So if you really want to grow your business, strong social profile, whether it's HomeAdvisor or anything like that, making sure you're chasing reviews, a great lead nurturing process through great software, and then a great presentation in the home. And and when you do that, you can convert well. One of the other tools, by the way, that we find that our customers love today, we use, and it's a product we use that it's called Pay Simple. And what's really cool about it is a paperless system. We can accept money from customers. We can get paid from customers, and the salespeople don't have to keep coming back and forth to the office dropping off checks. It's a paperless system that allows us to collect money from customers, whether it's a deposit or a balance. And again, it's just another area where it's a better customer experience. You do those things, and then you can throw fuel on, with internet marketing, all these other kind of things to scale up. There's a lot of great ways you can grow a business in 2021.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great point. Is the first part of that you talked about that, Brian, on took you 6 months to get a couch. It's going to take you 4 months to get your lazy boy or whatever you're looking at over there. The supply chains take a long time to tighten up, and they are extended right now through all manufacturing industries, not just your seating arrangement industry that you're looking at. Like if you think about siding, if you think about roofing, if you think about cabinets, you think about windows, everything is sort of extended now. So how do you differentiate yourself? And I think Brian hit the nail on the head, is that you create this customer experience that is seamless, has solutions in it that can create this paperless experience. And I think that you're going to be on top of your competition. That's for sure.
Yeah. If I can add one more thing to that, if you think about what should be the goal for 2021, operational excellence.
Yeah.
If any business owner out there that says, my focus is going to be operational excellence, then you can define what do you have to be excellent with how you manage your leads? What do you have to be excellent at how you handle the customer's journey? What do you have to be excellent at all the way through your organization? But if you focus on operational excellence and then come up with a plan around that, the difference between your cabinet and their cabinet door and their flooring.
A box is a box, man.
Operational excellence is the
Correct.
most difficult thing to compete with. And if you look like a Walmart, I mean, you can go in a Walmart and you can probably buy what you buy in Walmart at other places too. Walmart happens to do it better than anybody else. When you talk about operational excellence, think about what that means for you and your business, and you'll have a great year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great answers. All right, Patrick. Hoping you can expand on how detailed estimates help to ease the selling process for pros.
I don't want to get deep into the boring stuff, but when we talk about trade research, somebody has to do it, right? Brian and Kevin are focused on operational excellence. The presentation is something they can teach. If I can make the use of software in the bid creation way easier for them, then they can spend more time training and working on a craft, like tactically. And so that's where our spot is, and we try to focus. I mentioned speed earlier in when I say trade research, there's 5 pieces or 10 different line items that go into a building system, let's say, and making that a library of redundant bid creation pieces that you can pour into an estimate quickly. Then the contractor can just go in and change measurements, quality grades, look at the unit factors, look what's included in the trade, and make sure it's right? And so if I can do that faster for them, then it gives them more time to do other things in terms of tactical training and operational training to make them successful. I mentioned customer expectations. Some of the things we've been tinkering with is when a customer comes on the web for consulting help, right? We're working with our trade research to create like an outline or a rough draft of the project. It does not mean that we have limited information at that time. If it's a deck or a kitchen or whatever, we're forming a frame for that. In some of our pieces, we have the ability to consult the consumer, to give them a range in the geo that they live in, and then transfer that to a contractor application where he's picking it up. And he doesn't have to start at ground zero, just has to go in on maybe a mobile application and tune up a few things measurement wise. And that's something key that we've been working on, relating to they have expectations in their mind. Maybe they're wrong, but if the contractor's there, and it's a training opportunity to teach them, like, here's what you submitted for scope of work. It's a little bit different here, and show it to them. And so we focused on those pieces and making that where Brian and folks like himself can be excellent in the presentation, right? First, in most cases, Brian mentioned it, you have to be fast and able to get to that lead. The first couple, 3 guys, probably you're going to build a bond and make an impression where there's an impression of trust and they know you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And so we spent a lot of time on that in terms of that trade research being dependable, where the contractor can use it over and over again and feel like the margin's there. From that point, they can tinker with margin and other things to give themselves a buffer, but still win the job. I mentioned that a lot in the consulting world, like some even big box retailers are using or investing in data to form a frame for the project where they can then send that to the contractor to tune up, basically. And so when I say the customer's more informed, we're taking a piece in that, but we're trying to be a helpful cog in the process, basically, where you don't start from zero. Either they walk into a store and ask for DIY help and then call a contractor, or whatever it is, they're still consulting there. And if we can consult them in the right way, where it leads them to Kevin and Brian a little bit informed, but informed in a positive way, and that's what we're trying to do. Core concepts of capturing measurement, scope of work, getting that right the first time, using it as a place to create trust and a bond with that consumer. And then from there, delivering a dynamic proposal is where we focused a lot of our technology and research.
I'm the king of DIY to finding a contractor, by the way. It's my
Right behind you.
It's my personal method of operation.
Those guys walk in and don't know they need the tools that you have, right? You need to rent this, or what do I need in this project? And then they realize it's overwhelming, and then they come to you. So
True. All right, we're going to move on to kind of the next portion of our conversation, selling your company or your product. So Mike, I think you're going to kick it off for us.
Yeah, Brian, we were hoping you could elaborate a little bit on, just the importance of being persistent, continuously following up with leads, no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, well, it's a fundamental in our business. It's a fundamental. If you're in business, you've got a potential customer, you want to convert them to a real customer, because you don't make any money by just getting a big pile of potential customers. If you only get potential customers, you probably go out of business. So at some point, they have to become customers. And I think that look, if you're a reputable contractor and you have a reputable business and a great team and a great culture, you deserve to grow a business. I mean, you should grow a business.
Yep.
But I think it's the concept of scaling, a business. I think one of the most disruptive things in an organization is when, oh my gosh, we're so busy this month, and then we're really slow the next month, and we're really busy next month, and we're really slow the next month. And those highs and lows are very, very disruptive. You want to look at lead sources also that help even that out, so it's not so disruptive inside of your organization. And yeah, that's why I like things like, by the way, I know I'm going back to it again, internet. It used to be, look, you could do events and a lot of face-to-face activities, but that's in a post-COVID world, that's a little harder. But there are a lot of lead sources, whether again like a HomeAdvisor and all these things where you can actually, what we use it for is, okay, so this lead source is down, but we know we need a certain amount of leads to keep our business. So we can turn up valves. It's like opening valves and closing valves inside of the organization. But then making sure that you can move them from lead to customer to finished project. And to me, in business, the closer you make those two dates of the time you get the lead to the time the job is done and paid, the more profitable you are as an organization.
Absolutely.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Kevin, I feel like I'm asking you all the questions today. So hoping you could share some best practices, some tips that you've seen that successful pros do to have a better ROI. We kind of touched on ROI before, but just some tips that you've seen people be successful with.
Sure. I think that any business, a contractor, an orthodontist, a sewer cleaner, whatever you do for a living, you better be dialed in on what your ROI is and coming from that marketing spend that you're spending. So, as Brian mentioned, following up on leads with a consistent cadence is paramount. Speed to lead, like Patrick mentioned, very important. No matter the lead source, an always important factor is that nurturing process that can be repeatable and on a specific cadence. Let's just give you an example. So let's say you're a regular contractor and you're closing 3 out of 10 leads, something like that. Let's just say 3 out of 10, just to make this math easy. If you're Brian, it's 6 out of 10, but that's another story anyway. So that leaves what? Seven maybes. And in my opinion, this is where the opportunity lies, as your competition's most likely not doing a great job of following up on those 7. So there are metrics out there that say 60% of those 7 are going. Now, this is a lot of math, so someone might have to help me here. 60% of that 7 are going to actually finish a job in the next 365 days. Something similar. It might not be exactly, but it's going to be something along the same product lines. That leaves 60% of 7s, like 4-ish, something like that. 4 of them are going to purchase something. You're not going to get them all, but what if you got 1 or 2 of them? And what would that do to your ROI over the whole year? If you could grab 1 to 2 of those 7 maybes, it would amplify your ROI on your marketing spend. So just because you didn't sell them and you didn't get to them the first time, this is where an effective CRM comes in to continually nurture that lead, because all it would take would be get $175,000 kitchen remodel, and you've paid for your marketing spend maybe for 2 or 3 months. And that's the way I look at that on an ROI basis, is don't ever give up on those maybes, because those maybes, all it takes is 1 or 2 of those maybes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Just to add to that, if you are moving into a CRM in your business and looking to, or you're scaling up, to me, the first rule of operational excellence is understanding that if it's not written down, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't count.
If you want somebody to say something to a customer a certain way, it should be scripted. You know, the more you can write down your processes and document your behaviors, that's how you're going to scale your business. Assume, because that's the only way you're going to really replicate, and replication is key in a business. So again, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And if it is written down, it makes the application of all these things that we're talking about a whole lot easier.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, Patrick, what are some marketing tools and resources that companies could tap into that could help them see better returns on their investment?
As not being redundant, but our space is speed, right? And some of the things we're investing in is measurement tools and an integrated platform. Nobody wants to sketch anything out. There's a lot of stuff available to us in the creation of that trade research, basically. Measurements is a part of it too. And so we're investing heavily there in capturing measurements and sort of a mapping of the space. To me, that's two pieces. And what I'm trying to do is I arm contractors like Brian and other firms. Like if you have a bid creation and you're able to toggle what you show in those trades to the consumer, but you also have a 3D map of the space that you intend to do, scope of work, that's visual, right? A visual representation of it, and then the line item data. Now, perhaps you don't want to show unit cost, and I probably wouldn't if I was a contractor, but
Sure.
Measurements, the pieces that go into a job. And I think that varies depending on the consumer. Some consumers want to know more, need to know more to build the trust. Some just tell me the total, right? And so in our delivery of the summary report, that's a amalgamation of that bid creation. It's what you show can be toggled on and off with a nice, pretty logo, a 3D model of this is what the intent of us to do. If something changes, then it's justifiable with the consumer. You always have scope creep or changes, or hey, I want a different tile than what we selected. And so we're trying to make it very versatile when crews are working on those types of things, or there's a change order in it. I love that concept of integrating tools. LiDAR's out there now. We've invested in some partnerships with companies like Canvas or Stream, given this last year with needing to be remote to scope, or
Sure.
people very sensitive about being in their home. And then last piece, I mentioned the material order through a digital way. Brian and Kevin talk about CRMs. There's ways to port it over to the bid creation, right? And we want to be an open platform for doing that. The back end of it is, here's my material list. How can I process that digitally? But I only want this district manager to worry about his 10 guys. Then there's a regional super, et cetera. And so managing the hierarchy of it, and a lot of the retailers and distributors are giving discounts even more than what a bulk purchase company might already do just for doing it digitally. It's easier for them to manage. And so
Sure.
we've been focused on those technologies, which I think are excellent resources.
Great.
Okay. All right, Kevin.
Back to me. Oh, gee.
Yeah. So why do you think it's important to use a centralized platform for managing leads, invoicing, et cetera?
Well, I think Brian's a perfect example of why this is so important. You know, he's sitting at a desk in, where are you, in Phoenix today?
Scottsdale.
Yeah. So he's in Scottsdale, but at any given moment, he's want to see what's happening in his businesses across, like, we're talking, 2,000 miles, 1,500 miles away from each other. Or it could be in the field with a mobile application. Having everything in one place is the key to effectively utilizing any software that is going to help you run your business. So knowing the health and status, I guess, of your business at any given moment is important for continued growth, and providing, like Brian mentioned before, your customer an excellent experience. That is, like, as your tech is pulling up to the house, actually he stopped, he looks on his iPad and he says, Fido lives in this house. Let's make sure that Fido's owner is in his cage, right? So we'll make sure of those things. Not Fido. We want to make Fido's fine. It's usually the owner.
That's right.
So I guess, in the end, it's about, and not to steal thunder again, but Brian mentioned earlier, it's about people and platforms. The people are just as important. and how you create efficiencies throughout that process, from capturing your HomeAdvisor lead to closing that lead, to invoicing the customer properly, to getting paid through Pay Simple, to following up on and asking them how you did. You know what? Getting that information on how, like, did I perform the things that I promised you I would do? So, and then utilizing that to get insights into how you can improve. Continual improvement is the most important thing we can do in business and in life, really in general. You know, you're continually striving to improve. And if you think that what you did like last year or the last 10 years that was effective for you is going to continue on through for the next 10 years, you're absolutely you're kidding yourself. And making a commitment to technology that can help your business it's a scary proposition sometimes. But I promise you, when you make that commitment and you put the time and effort into it and get buy-in from your team across all business segments, you're going to see results, and you're going to see results that you're going to like as well.
Yeah, and if I can add a couple of things to that. So two things when it comes to like surveying customers and seeing what, how they view you, as an organization grows, what happens is the CEO gets further and further away from the customer because you have to put layers on there. And the way you innovate, the way you get disrupted is by not listening to your customer, by the way. I mean, look at what Uber did to the taxi industry. The way you always want to stay close to the customer, and that happens through a survey process. But, to me, the real benefit of technology and all these other things is this. Look, let me take you down the typical journey of somebody that starts a business. They're a contractor. I'm really good at, cutting trim and talking to customers, and they love me. And then, next thing you know, I got to do 10 estimates, and then I got to do a bunch of invoicing. Then I got to do this. And before you know it, you're not doing the things that you're really great at. What you're doing is you're an executive admin person, and you're so buried in the things that aren't the things that got you to where you are today. And so to me, it's about how do you hire to your weaknesses as quickly as possible and surround yourself with technology that allows you to focus on the things that made you who you are today, and think of everything else as a total distraction inside of your organization. Because so much of what you're doing today can be simplified through technology, whether it's a CRM system. I don't have to say, where did I put that customer's name? I know it's underneath my seat. All of that stuff is a total distraction and creates stress as a business owner. The more you can simplify, predict, regulate, and control, the healthier of a business you're going to have, and the better experience your customer is going to have as well.
Fantastic.
I think it's interesting, Sherri, that Misha Fisher from the HomeAdvisor team spoke to our user group this year, and he sort of went over the renovation activity. And I'm sure Brian and others dealing with this, but the workforce is changing a good bit too, right? You have millennials and those that are beyond millennials that maybe are great at sales and great at software, but they don't know a thing about construction, right? And so we've thought a lot about controlling the output. Part of Brian's plan is operational plan from beginning to end. But I think you have to make use and understand that the workforce is changing. The buyer is changing, right? You mentioned text messaging being the preferred medium. It's just, like Kevin said, what got you here today is not enough to keep you here. And that's interesting given the customer audience and the workforce audience.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian, you've been doing this for a while. I'm sure you get a lot of word of mouth business, but why do you think it is important to diversify your presence, even if, say, word of mouth is your biggest revenue source?
Look, for me personally, I want to be the master of our own destiny. Of course, I want customers to brag about us all the time, but I don't want to have to. If my customer stops talking to people, and that's what's affecting whether or not I grow my business. As I mentioned earlier, as I staff up with people, I want to be able to make sure that I'm keeping them busy. I want to keep my team working. We don't lay people off in the winter. We're able to keep people busy all year long because we have a robust marketing process. And again, Sherri, I use you. Our company embraces you. We find HomeAdvisor, a great lead source for us. The reason I love it, by the way, is because look, I can run all the TV ads in the world. Call 1-800-Tundraland, visit Tundraland.com. I can run all those ads in the world. The people that are going to HomeAdvisor are the ones that didn't respond to the television ad. They're the ones that say, I don't know who to call. I want to get as many of those people as possible, because those are the ones I would never see when we talked about earlier, making our competitors stronger. That's why I love like a HomeAdvisor lead source as a way to help fill the gap of my lead generation. But I'm in front of people that where we weren't top of mind. The top of mind you're going to get anyway. Grow your business through opening up new channels, and to me that's why it's so important.
Sure.
Yeah, it's great. So I know Kevin, you've got a hard stop. So just to wrap it up, I just really wanted to say thank you to you, Patrick, to Brian, to Kevin, for sharing your knowledge and to being gracious with your time. Mike and I have enjoyed this little chat. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys for joining us. That was awesome.
This is some great information from Patrick and Brian. So great job.
I'm honored and humbled to be able to contribute. Thank you, Brad.
Gosh, thank you so much. All right, guys, have a great day, and thanks, folks, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.